but the Lord is really speaking to me. And I told Rabbi Scott when he invited me to come, I told him, why don't I share my story with some of you? Because it's an absurd. Think about this for a second. It's really an absurd for somebody all the way from Israel to come to a place like the South. And really, I didn't think I was in the South until yesterday. I had a bread, was it a bread pudding? I don't know about that, but you don't get this kind of bread pudding in Israel. I can see the calorie calculator just go up with each one of them. Yeah, the wife is watching now, so I'm going to come clean. And it's continue with the dinner. Might as well be honest about it all. But God is a miraculous God. Our God is a miraculous God. Amen. How many of you believe that God is a miraculous God? All of my life is dealt with and filled with miracles. See, I wasn't even supposed to be here. I wasn't even supposed to be alive. I was born in the first day of the 7th month. Think about this. A baby barely have his lung developed. The very first day of the 7th month. And you know that a child have to be circumcised on the 8th day. But I was fighting between life and death. So I was circumcised like months later, actually, because I was fighting. And the doctors were fighting. And I pulled through. And the reason I pulled through, I tell you the truth, is for this day. For this season. It is funny, sometimes you don't know how things are exactly going to play out. But let me tell you, God is God of details. He is God that can work out all the little details in your life. Because He's the maker of creator of the speed bump. There's a passage actually in Isaiah that says, it says, I'm the creator of good and darkness and light, or good and darkness and light and darkness and good and evil. Everything was created by God, and everything is there for the purpose of His name. It is so strange to me. The Lord has brought me to such a strange place. This is my first time in Atlanta, in the South, in this Southern, where you eat pies and things like that, I suppose I want to share with you my story for a moment. I'm not going to take today too long to share with you. I know we have had a very long day, but I really believe that this story, not those only here, but those also watching online, is going to touch somebody today. Somebody here today going to touch by the power of God and will be restored and renewed by the miracle. All of my life, by the way, our history as Jews is a history of miracles. But in my family, there have been miracles out of the wazoo. Some of you know of the worst that we have as Jews have been enduring, 1967. And then 1973, we endure what's called the Yom Kippur War. Despite of what you read about me in the internet, my real name is Itzhak, and I was really born in Israel. Okay? Matter of fact, I was born, I told you, on this 7 month first. My family was so excited. So in our tradition, you name the children after their grandparents. And my grandfather had so many grandchildren, but I'm the only one that's got the name. I got the name Yitzhak. It's my real name. Itzhak means laughter. I guess my parents saw me. They laughed. They wanted to cry, but they laughed. I don't know. They laughed. And it's my name of my grandfather. But in 1973, Israel suffered a serious war. It's called the Yonipur War. And in this particular war, my father was a tank commander. Was a tank commander. Had a bomb that went over a snare, and the snare blew up. And my father lost most of his hearing in this particular war. So after the war, he suffered. He had to go through surgery and injuries and all of those things. And they didn't think they are ever going to have more children. But God did a miracle, and He brought me to the world. And by the way, I'm happy to be in the world. It's a good place to be. The world is a good place to be. And I was raised in this environment that might be strange to some of you, but you're raised in Israel. It's very, very different than being raised in America. I think you all understand it. Each environment was completely different. In my case, the environment I was raised, so in Israel is a funny place. Most of my generation is the first generation that born in Israel. Okay. Now you might understand that if you were not born, anybody here was not born in America here? Some people were no. A lot of you were not born in America. And you can relate to this. But I am first generation Israeli because prior to 1948, everybody were coming from the diaspora. So my mother come from Europe, from a place called Vilna, Lithuania. It's what we call Ashkenazic Jews. And my father is come from Iraq, okay, Baghdad, okay? So I just want to explain to you the clash of cultures. One are hot, sweaty people. You saw yesterday when I jumped? That was my Iraqi side when I did the jumping. When I pulled the Spider-Man trick on you, yeah, that was my Iraqi side. The Ashkenazic side is very calm and collected. So the bad thing about it is I'm getting the bad joke from both sides. Okay? You remember one day somebody asked me, so what are you? You are a mutant, like a teenage mutant ninja turtle. What are you? You are like a weird hybrid. I remember I was just a blue boy, so I don't know what I am. I'm Israeli. What does it matter? And I went home in tears to my mom. He called me some bad name. I didn't know what was a Sephardic or Ashkenazi. Or what I knew, it was Israeli. And I tell you, it's a good thing to be Israeli. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of the heritage that I was raised. Every person have a hero, right? I don't know who is your hero, but when I grew up, my hero was Itzhak Senior, which was my grandfather. I want to tell you something about him. I just learned something about him just recently. He always sacrificed for us. He always wanted the best for us. He teaches us everything that we know about the Torah, about Jewish values. He was the best grandfather that you could have. The way Jews lived back then in Iraq, they had to fight for their Jewishness so much. And he was the oldest of, I think, 6 or 7 children. And he was a yeshiva student. He studied in what's called the cheder. Cheder is when every little boy go to study to ultimately become a rabbi. And he was great. He was great in this. And then my great-grandfather in Iraq has suffered a massive stroke. massive stroke. And my grandfather was only 15 years old. They had to pull him away from the cheder, and to arrange marriage, he had to marry my grandmother. In case you wonder how old she was only 13. He was 15 and she was 13. And they had the happiest marriage for 75 years. So God is a miraculous God. And I'm going to tell you something about this also. It will be shocking to you in America. But they were distant relatives. The Jewish people fought so much to preserve who they are as Jews that they were willing to do those kind of things just to preserve their Jewishness. My grandfather, he became an undercover agent. You see, my last name is Shapira, but Shapira is Ashkenazic name. It is not a Sephardic name. You wonder why? Because my grandfather kept on changing his name, because in the early 40s, he went in disguise to bring Jews into the land of Israel. That's what his job. So one time he went with a hat, another time he went with a long beard, one time he went with a mustache. Every time he went with a different disguise in order to bring Jews to the land. My father still remembers the story. In the 1940s, they got a cool invention. Do you know what is this invention called? A radio. And boy, they loved the radio because there was something there that is called the voice of Israel. And in secret, they went and they built a mini antenna. And all of them got it together in a room, 2 by 2. I still remember the story. To listen to the voice of Israel, to hear what the Zionists do in this land is called the milk and honey. You need to understand, Israel was not yet established. And they were very, very wealthy in Iraq. They had servants and maids. But one day, they received the calling from the Lord to get everything that they could on 4 donkeys and go undercover from Iraq about 650 miles to the land of milk and honey. So that's what they have done. They piled everything up and they went to the land of milk and honey. And they went to the land of Israel and they settled in an area called the Splendor of the Chaon. That is where I grew up, in the Splendor of the Chaon. And the Chaon, the Splendor of the Chaon, you know the song by Ted Pierce, Rose of Sharon? I am from the Chaon, okay? And I can tell you one thing in the Chaon, there are not that many roses. But there are a lot of oranges. We are famous for oranges. As a matter of fact, I remember as a little boy walking through the orange grove, smelling from oranges, reeking. By the time I would get to school, I would already eat my 4th or 5th orange, just filled with yellow. You know, my mother, blessed be her memory, always wash my clothes filled with yellow goo. Why? Because we go. One for me, one for me. One for me, one for me, kind of thing, you know? And it was really, really cool. Now, we grew up to be the most loud and obnoxious family you can meet. It's my family. Yes, it is true. We have cousin, and we have cousin of cousins, and we have the cousin of the cousin of the cousin. And all the cousins live 1 mile from each other. They're all there. They're all there. That's when they released the movie, The Fat Greek Fat Wedding. I told him, this is my Jewish family in disguise. The big fat Jewish family wedding. Everybody know everybody. You know, in America, it's a funny thing. You go to the supermarket in America, unless you figure it out. I go there and I pick up cheese. And the person next to me says to me, I'm sorry, sir, you're in my personal space. But ma'am, all what I do is picking up the cheese. Why am I in your personal space? There is no such concept in Hebrew. There is no personal space. And among your family, there is no personal space. Okay, I will make it very clear to you. So if you ever go to Israel, be ready. Two things, I tell you. Make sure your nose is not that sensitive, because there is not such thing as personal space. And number two, make sure that you're not being offended. Okay, especially not on the line to the bus. Everybody push, 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 push. We were growing like this, and all of us, and it was funny because I am the littlest grandson. So because you're the littlest, you're the most spoiled, and you get the extra privileges. I always loved Joseph because of this, because I was already telling. I come to my son, I say, Saba, let me tell you what I did. And I always got the candy. I always got the Actually, Jewish do not give candy. You know what they do? They give money. Everything is money. I always got in Passover extra 20 shekels, you know? And I found the reason why I got the extra 20 shekels, you know? But those people were my hero. I was raised in an environment. Let me tell you something. Back in even better. I want to show you something for a second. You see this picture? I just took it. I just took this picture in Miami. I went to try and find kosher food in Miami. And look at the picture I saw. Fox, shrimp, scampi. Kosher Central. Kosher Central. So I asked him, what's up with this? He says he's a fake shrimp. And I said, what about not to indulge your mind with it? He said, no, it's okay. It's a look like shrimp. It tastes like shrimp, but it's not shrimp. This is not the Judaism I was raised in. Okay? In other words, I know in America, I talked to Rabbi Scott. I said, how you raised up? I said, one day, 1 foot in the Reform synagogue, 1 foot with a cheeseburger in your hand. Friends, that doesn't work in Israel. That's American Jews, okay? We were strict. In fact, I can tell you one story. You know, Yom Kippur come. You know the Day of Atonement? In Day of Atonement, what you're supposed to do? Fast. Fast, of course. But in my family, Yom Kippur doesn't start when you are 13. It starts when you are 10. 10. Why 10? Because they give you 1 year grace. 1 year to practice. And then by 11, you already have to fast. I'm just a little boy. I'm 10. I go to the synagogue. You know what it is to be with all these elderly men in the synagogue all day? Amen. All the time. I'm worn out just from the amens. Then they speak up, half in Arabic, half in Hebrew. Oh, I cannot even keep up with this. I'm dizzy. And I'm doing good. I fasted. At 10 years old, I fasted. I was so proud. But you know, as I told Rabbi Scott this morning, the flesh is weak. Spirit is willing. So when we come to the house, Amen, labriut. When we come to the house, I discovered something. I said, I will sneak to the refrigerator. I take an egg. But I am so much in fear. I'm so terrified because you have to understand, I wasn't raised with shrimp scampi. I was raised in a real religious environment. I will take the egg, I will not even peel the egg. I will take the egg with the shell. It's cooked, but it's with the shell, and I will just shove it in my mouth, and I will eat it real fast, and all the evidence will be with the shell. You understand the desperation I was? I'm 10 years old. Oh my goodness. I open the refrigerator, look for the egg. I found an egg quickly. I'm not even telling, I'm not even going anywhere. I'm just shoving it in my mouth. There's this huge thing in my mouth. And then I start, and those eggs, egg without water. Because I said, no, I'm going to pretend I'm still fasting. So I show my grandfather that I can do it. But those eggs with shells do not go down so good. So anyway, I'm still playing like that. And then I'm hearing this thing behind me, these heavy footsteps. I'm hearing these heavy footsteps behind me, and I hear Itzhak, because Itzhak is the name of my grandfather, and he always called me Itzhak, like that when I'm in big trouble. Itzhak, what are you doing? And I'm turned to him, so, nothing. And he looked at me and shake. I'm telling you this story so you understand. There was no shrimp scampi in my house. Whew. Well, in fact, we're coming to Passover. How many love Passover? How many already love the story of Passover of the 4 children? Right? The Agada story talk about 4 children. One of the children is what? Wicked. Right? Now, in my family, we set the table in such a way, it's a square. And every person gets a turn to read from the Agada. Every person gets his turn. And when it started the head at the table. It started with my grandfather. And it go around like this. So we know how many parts there are to read in the Agada. So we try to arrange, me against my brothers and cousin, which spot should I sit so I'm not going to be the wicked kid. You know what I'm talking about? We are so engraved in religion that we want so much not to be the wicked boy. So we're fighting about this. We're fighting about this. But all kidding aside, honestly, my family I'm blessed for. I'm blessed for them because they teach me value of family. They put in me roots that I wouldn't have any other way, and it wasn't amazing. Growing in Israel was amazing. By the way, I didn't meet any Gentile until I was almost 17, 18 years old. We're so secluded in this Jewish community. Everybody in the world is Jewish. I didn't know anything about Gentiles. The only experience I had with Christianity really is when I was 7 years old. You see, Purim was just passed upon us. And my greatest desire in life is to be the Arthur, the round night table. You know Purim, the festival, where you're becoming something? I wanted to become Arthur helper. I call it Arthur helper. And I wanted to have the shield, and I wanted to have the, armor, and I wanted my face cover shiny kind of, shiny thing. I was a demanding little boy. And a Jewish mom, let me tell you, Jewish parents are just slaves for their kids. My mother would do anything for me. I could tell my mom I want to go to the moon, and she would have done it for me. I don't know how, but she would. Something about Jewish moms, it's crazy. They go crazy for the kids. Not very healthy, by the way. Anyway, I said, Mom, it's this or nothing. I want to be, because the year before I was a cowboy, the year before I was a clown, I was an Indian, and I was an astronaut. What else there is left for me to be, Mom? I want to be Arthur Round Night. Okay. She ran to school. I remember her coming sweaty to my school. By the way, it's quite normal for moms to show up at school at Israel. It's always a good news. There is always good news. My mom always comes to school with cake, either with cake or something like that. It's quite different than here. It's a community, everybody know each other. Moms show up with cakes or something. She says, son, I have a wonderful news. Tomorrow is Purim and I found you your costume. But you have to go to the tailor in the outskirts of the city. And he's going to have for you your costume available. I said, Mom, this is so wonderful. So I ran, sweaty little boy, 7 years old, running with joy, singing in my heart, happiness. And I come in, they have one of those dolls, and you see the costume, and I walk in, and I'm gasping. It's beautiful. I love it. And he gave it to me and said, try it on. It's one of those tailor like in the movies with the little mustache. And, one of those guys with a French accent that is Jewish, Israeli with a French accent. It's like in the movies. And then he said, and now I would like to give you a surprise. And I'm like, what more? And he gave me a shield. And I will not forget the shield. It was red and white. And on the red and white, there's a big cross. Oh my gosh. The second I saw this cross, I flipped out. I knew nothing about this cross. But the second I saw the cross, I cried. Tears start coming off my eyes. I ran with my trunks. I took off all the clothes. 7 years old, running. And I says, I even remember, I ran to my grandfather. I'll say, Christian. I didn't know what even Christian meant. I just knew the word Christian. And I was terrified when my grandfather tried to give me something bad. My grandfather went and talked to him. It was like that for us. My grandfather was really just the protector of our family. He protected us. He taught me everything about Torah and Judaism that I know. And it was interesting. My grandfather, who was ordained rabbi, he had a deep anger toward although he was in the Orthodox community, he also had a deep anger toward the Orthodox community in the same time. I asked him the question, why do you have such an anger toward the Orthodox community? Once he says, because they make Judaism what it should not be. And it was interesting that he said he never really explained that to me, what it's meant by that. But growing in Israel was just amazing. Just some years ago, my mother passed away. And I will not forget that. I went to Israel to the funeral. And as I was leaving Israel, I decided, by the way, there's something, I don't remember much, but I remember my bar mitzvah. How many of you remember your bar mitzvah here? Anybody remember your bar mitzvah? I don't remember nothing about the bar mitzvah. You know why? There were so many people there. And they all had one goal in mind. To hurt me. To hurt me with those darn candy. This Sephardic thing, they do this thing. And then you hear this Indian thing. And all of a sudden, mass candies are thrown at you. And not only that they throw in one direction. I was raised in the Orthodox synagogue, which means that the men and the women sit separate. They're what's called the mechitza. The women sit on the top, the men in the bottom. So the candies are not coming from one direction. They are coming from two directions. And me, I was born in the new moon. So I'm not getting a regular portion. I'm getting a double portion to red. So kept it coming, kept it. And my grandmother, she bought a sack this much. She like keeps applying. It's like with a machine gun or something. All candy are thrown at me. And all what I remember is join with the Torah and says, Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch Magen Avraham, the shield of Abraham. And I'm still using the Torah as a human shield. It's become a human shield. I'm being protected by the Torah. I didn't know the Torah will come so handy. And I just see the people, they boom, boom, just throwing candies at me. Wow, what an experience, spiritual experience. You learn something about the power of resurrection the second this candy hit you between your eyes. And by the way, when you hit with the candy, do you think people tell you, are you okay? No, they don't care. Get the candy, get the candy, get the candy, all those little kids. I'm a little sour about this entire incident. I don't know if I ever will recover. And there's no breathing room there too in those synagogues, you know. It's everybody smells. I remember, you see what you remember from 13 years ago, 13 years, yeah, it's funny. I do remember my haftarah. I can chant you the entire thing. And a matter of fact, I remember my portion. It was about David and Jonathan and the love of David to Jonathan and Jonathan to David. And I remember the rabbi standing up and says, do you know where we're going to receive the Messiah from? I said, who? And he says, Messiah? I said, who is that? I don't know Messiah. He says, he's the one who's going to redeem us. He is called the Messiah, son of David. And the love of Jonathan to David is the love that we are to have for the future Messiah of Israel. And he says, you know, there was a serious bar mitzvah. I mean, I didn't have to memorize. I had to give a sermon. I had to give a speech. I have to stand in front of those people and say a lot of things about really smart things about the Torah. So I remember my sermon. You want to hear my very first sermon? Really? I never shared this sermon in 35 years now, but I will just give you the opening line. I said, I really appreciated King David because I can really relate to him. He messed up all the time. And I am like him. I mess up all the time. So please forgive me, dear guest and visitor, for messing up all the time. The end. No, not exactly. But I remember this message. I'm telling them, he messed up. I mess up. I can relate to this guy. It's cool. Shh. See, I told you it's different growing up in Israel. Anyways, so then when my mother gone, I decided to go back. You know, have you ever do that? To do a trip in the memory lane, going back to the same old places? Aren't we always like to go to the same old places? And they eat in the same old place. I'm a creature of habit. I like to go over and over and over and over to the same place. Anyway, I decided to go to the synagogue. There's one thing that changed in the synagogue that I did not anticipate. I visited this, but since then we attended another synagogue in the cross town, so I haven't been there for maybe 15 years in this particular synagogue. There's one big change in the synagogue. There is a bodyguard now in the synagogue. But he's not a regular bodyguard. He is a keeper. You have to understand, I was raised in the Iraqi synagogue. Next to us, there is a Moroccan synagogue. Next to that, there is the Syrian synagogue. Next to the Syrian, there is the Tunisian synagogue. They want to make sure that you come in, you are one of their clan. If you're Ashkenazi, go to Ashkenazi. If you're Iraqi, go to Iraqi. You're talking about being unwelcoming? If they don't know who you are, you're not coming in. And the guy that is standing there is a scary guy because he's big. And not only is big, I'm not a big jewelry fan, you know. Jewelry scares me. Something about jewelry just scares me. The guy has, I'm not joking with you, a David star made out of fake gold, but I'm pure gold. It's giant. It's like, I'm thinking about those who took Yeshua, in front of Yeshua to the Sanhedrin. I'm thinking about this guy. Giant David star with a circle around this. A giant kind of David star. He's the keeper of the synagogue. Okay, it's kind of like a David star with this thing. I mean, gold. Matter of fact, he cannot even walk straight. It's so heavy. You have to kind of like, yeah. Who are you? He asked me. He said, who are you? Never seen you here. I said, listen, let me tell you my last name. Maybe you recognize. Because my family donated most of this synagogue. You have to understand, my grandfather built most of the synagogue with his own hand. Give him the last name. Said, never heard about you. You are not coming in here. I said, can you at least ask somebody? Maybe somebody knows us. So we come back. He said, okay, I will allow you in, but you have to sit in the corner. And I'm thinking, great. That is just great. I now have to sit in the corner. Okay, so he's bringing me in and I sit in the corner. And the shock of mine, the place is packed. Why is the place packed? By the way, it looks exactly the same as it did 20 years ago. But why is it packed? Because there's a bar mitzvah in the place. And I look at the little boy, and he looked just like my spitting image. It could be my little brother. The little boy looks so shell-shocked. He looks so terrified. He looks scared. Okay? And then not only that, all these women passing all the candy. Boy, I took the revenge on this little boy. Oh, boy, I got him good. I just keep on telling him, pass me more candy. Bam, 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 bam. And this little boy, I see him hurting from candies. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the moment. I reconcile my childhood. Finally, at the age of 37, there has been a reconciliation. Hallelujah. But then something unexpected happened. The same big dude with the giant David starts showing up. And this time he kisses me. And when they kiss, they kiss. Let me tell you. Those Iraqi, when they kiss, you get slobber on you. You feel the kisses. You know you've been kissed. Oh, Bo. Matter of fact, not only you come in, brother, we are going to give you the honor today in this bar mitzvah. Move over, you. He's reading from the Torah today. They want me to be the main reader in the bar mitzvah of a boy I don't know. You understand how twisted this is? A boy, I have no idea who is this little boy even. On this bar mitzvah, I am going to be the seventh reader. And you have to understand, the way they read, it's not like you. Like the lady that read yesterday, let's say she mispronounced a Hebrew word. In this synagogue, it's not like a normal synagogue. If you mispronounce a word, we stop. The service stop. And then somebody has to correct it. So this guy next to me, number 5, I think he was, we stopped every single word for him. The poor guy, every single word we stopped. Poor fellow. Vayomer. Shema. I mean, you're talking about a long Torah service? Torah service is like 2 hours. I'm not doing 7. We'll be there until next year if I have to be there. He said, no, brother, really, I love it. I appreciate the honor. I won't read. But thank you so much. But then he says, you come with me. And I can see the headlines. Do you know who I am? And they're just going to lynch me in this place today. He said, no, come, brother. Come. I will take you to a special seat. He takes me, like let's say this is the Torah. He brought me right to the nose of the Torah. Literally, I'm nose to nose with the Torah. Literally, I can smell the Torah. And he says, you have the seat of honor here. And I said, wow, what is that for? Why do you give me this honor? Don't move. He's become aggressive for some reason again. I don't understand this behavior. It's like, it's crazy behavior. There is something that is happening here. And then he said, you wait, the rabbi is going to come and have a word with you. So the rabbi shows up and he says to me, do you know why you are here? I said, well, I thought I'm coming to pray. I have no clue. He says, it is Hashem who sent you here today. And I said, what do you mean by that? He says, I want you to look underneath the seat you're sitting on. And I look underneath the seat. I don't see nothing. He says, no, I want you to literally turn all the seat over. You know, it's one of those wooden seats, heavy, you know, but it's a wooden seat, and he turned it over. So I turn it over, I reverse it. And there is an inscription. And what the inscription reads is the following. This seat has been purchased for life by Itzhak Shapira, my grandfather, in honor of me. You see, my grandfather knew that I will come back there one day. He purchased it for life. And he wanted me to be close to the Torah, the closest to the Torah. So I have a seat for life. Some of the anti-missionaries don't understand. It doesn't matter what I believe. I have a seat for life in the synagogue. It was purchased by somebody for me. And the reason I am telling you this incredible story is because this is the heritage that I have, and I am thankful for this heritage that I have. Everything that came afterward does not neglect this heritage. It's not detract from the heritage. People ask me how you are. There can't be anybody more Jewish than you. You're the most Jewish person I know. How can you, people upset, how can you, the son of Israel, believe in this? And look at my Jewishness. I can sit here and brag about the Jewishness, but I can tell you that with all of this Jewishness, all of the tradition, all of the richness, all of the love, I didn't have any sort of personal connection with God that, well, I had a personal connection with God, but it was limited. You understand what I'm saying? I knew God exists. I love God. I love our mitzvot. But I didn't know much more of this. What I'm trying to tell you today, our heritage is important. Where we came from is important. And when I move later on through some circumstances in our life, we were forced to move to America. When I first came to American Judaism, which was a conservative and Orthodox, it was very strange. It resembled nothing like the Judaism in Israel. And I want you to understand that. Judaism in Israel is not like the Judaism in America. No, not at all, not even resembling it. And when I moved to America, let me tell you, you have a great country, amen? You have a great country. Why you look at me so scared? You have a great country. You have a great country. And you have a great television. And I knew nothing really. My English was very broken, very poor. And as a matter of fact, I was just cleaning up my junk just a couple of months ago, and I found the very first letter that I wrote to my sister in Israel in 1993, I believe it was, or something like that, 92 or 93. And I remember what I wrote there. The buildings here are really tall and scary. And they have this idea, there's this thing called malls. And inside a mall, you can find everything. And the Jewish people here are very strange because they drive on the Shabbat to synagogue. I remember I told her I didn't quite understand this because we never drove on the Shabbat to synagogue. We walk. That's the synagogue. That's it. We're in the synagogue. I thought, oh, how weird. I was terrified. And then I had this first month in America, I had the sleep deprivation. I could not get adjusted to the jet lag. And I remember there was this man on TV. And I was so attracted to this guy. He was this phenomenal fellow because he used to close his eyes and he said those things and miracles were happening. Miracles. People calling him for miracles. And then he said, give me $50. And I thought, oh, a great, miraculous guy this is. And his name was Robert Tilton. How many of you remember good old Robert? And that's how I learned English. Every night, 2-3 hours with Robert Tilton TV, listening to him, embracing the message, understanding what really Christianity believed. That was my first real exposure to American TV. And I always saw they used to have this number on the screen. And I saw this number multiply, $50, $100, $1,000. I said, this guy's amazing. Yes. So we had a really traumatic experience in your great country with American TV. But the trauma did not left there. The second bigger trauma is when my mother sent me to the grocery for the first day. You don't send a 17 years old to get grocery. Come on, Mom. The first shock was, in Israel, you walk everywhere. Well, I decided to walk to the place called the Winn-Dixie. Well, guess what? They arrested me because I was walking on a freeway. Because that's what you do in Israel. You walk on the freeway. And they stopped me and they asked me what street you live on, and I didn't know my street. And I said to him, I'm going to show you where I live. The next thing I know, he said, sir, you're going to come inside this police car with me. You sound a little delusional. You don't know where you live. You don't speak English. You walk on a freeway to Winn-Dixie. What are you doing? I remember coming to church to my mom, and my mom, a Jewish Yiddish mama. She said, oh, my son. Oh, it's all flamboyant. It's always exaggerated. She called to Israel. Stachi was arrested today. Oh, and then all my cousins know about it. And then I'm getting letters. Oh, I've been arrested. It's always exaggerated, everything in our culture. But then the next day I learned better. You don't talk to the police officer. You run if you see them. No, that doesn't sound right. That's not what I meant. You know what I mean? I made it. Winn-Dixie, the beef people. I even remember this little commercial. And my mother said, get me some white chicken. White chicken? I said, no problem, Mom. I can handle it. I'm not a little kid anymore. I've been arrested already. I mean, I've been in the country only like for 2-3 weeks, I think, at this point. I go to Winn-Dixie, and I get this. I look. It's look bad. Pork. I'm all terrified. I've never seen pork. This is my first experience to pork. And I tell you, when I saw the pig feet, I was shocked. I was in a shock. The little pig feet, oh. You know what? It is a trauma for a Jewish Israeli to see a pig feet. I was shocked. But then I found the chicken. I found the white meat. And I come to the white meat, and I remember to this cashier, the cashier, and it's big. I got the good value. They used to have this thing called the bonus buy. So you get the real big chicken. So then she come to me and she said to me, What she said to me? It wasn't pork. What's the other word for pork? Hog? All, yeah, but there's another word. Lard, not lard, I don't remember. I think maybe hog. She said half, she said half a pound. You got a half a pound of hog? And I said, I'm sorry. What is it? Excuse me? What did I just buy? She said, you just bought hog. And I remember even my mother, may her memory be blessed, bought me a miloni. It's something you can type a word. In shaking finger, I type H-O-G. Hog? I touch the cover of a pig. I ran out of there without a hug, without my money back, without nothing. I flipped in the place. They shut down this Winn-Dixie, I think, because of me. I really believe they shut it down. I'm scarred from this. I see Winn-Dixie now. I'm cheer. I go to hyperventilation if I see Winn-Dixie. Oh, telling you this because it's troubling. But then the most troubling thing, I saved the last and the worst troubling thing that happened to me.